feedback on their progress thus far and provide them with support on where they can go in the future. I'd like to welcome Reed Hayes from our partner at Unum. Reed is also the founder of healthcare VR application Rendeavor. I'd like to thank Rebecca Sharp, founding partner at Transparency Health, which has made a commitment to investing in healthcare companies and data analytics companies in the healthcare space. And I'd also like to welcome Marcus Whitney from Nashville. Marcus is a founding partner of Jumpstart Foundry and the author of the new book, Create and Orchestrate, The Path to Claiming Your Creative Power from an Unlikely Entrepreneur. And Marcus, I think you're anything but an unlikely entrepreneur, but thank you for joining us today. I'd like to welcome our Director of Programs, Kirk Burton, who has done an incredible job leading these companies over the past several months to this point today. Thank you so much, and welcome Kirk Burton.
Thank you, Marcus. You know, I'm really excited today to talk to you about these 8 companies. We started this process back in May and June when we had applications open for our HealthTech Accelerator. And we had a lot of applications, but we narrowed it down to these 8 companies. And over the summer, they worked with us and coaches and mentors to refine their processes, look at their customer discovery, and make some decisions on where they need to go in the future and get some advice on how to do that. So we're very excited to let you see these 8 companies today. Before we get started, I want to review a couple of housekeeping rules. Please mute your microphone if you're not speaking. And the way this is going to work is each founder is going to give about a 5-minute pitch, and then we'll open the floor to our panelists and let them interact with the founders and provide feedback. And with that, let's get started. Our first presentation this afternoon is Eric Mayer with EDP Biotech.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Mayer, and I'm the CEO of EDP Biotech in Knoxville, Tennessee. We're an agile diagnostics company whose mission is to detect disease early, thus EDP, early detection products. Our initial indication is colorectal cancer, but as you'll see, we've also used our blood testing equipment and expertise to help combat the coronavirus pandemic, generating revenue along the way. My team and I are dedicated to eradicating colorectal cancer. Combined, we have nearly a century of experience developing novel diagnostics and launching them internationally as well as here in the United States. We have a crack advisory board of directors, and scientific advisory, and have 2 exits under our belts, all combined. We've built this company with multiple revenue streams in mind. Our top priority is to finish Colaplex, which is our blood-based diagnostic for the early detection of colorectal cancer, and launch that in the European Union, where they are already performing annual screenings for colon cancer next year. In addition, we're starting to grow our coronavirus testing right here in our clinical laboratory. We're on pace to hit over $500,000 in revenue this year alone. And as you can see, we've already signed numerous public partnerships, and there's a couple partnerships that we can't even talk about yet. We've also built a strong IP moat around our technology, related not only to the work we're doing in coronavirus, but of course, the important work that we're doing in colorectal cancer. Patents, trademarks, as well as some new IP around our advanced mathematics and data analytics. A lot of people ask, how does colorectal cancer and coronavirus, how do those play together? What are you doing in this business to get to the next level? Our roadmap includes not only B2B and DTC testing of the coronavirus right now to begin our revenue generation and create those clinical relationships, but also once we've launched our product ex-US, we'll be able to pull that back into the United States market and begin a nice pathway into this geography. Multiple revenue streams in multiple geographies with multiple partners will create more shots on goal for liquidity for our investors. Now, our colorectal cancer diagnostic, we're very excited about, proud of the work that we've done. It is leading the way in early detection. We find not only 93% of stage 1 cancers, which is the stage when patient outcomes are the best, We're also finding nearly 90% of the medium and high risk polyps. These are the lesions that a gastroenterologist can remove to prevent colon cancer from ever happening in that patient in the first place. This is not just a pipe dream. We have tested this technology now in nearly 2,000 patients. If you compare that with some of the liquid biopsy competitors that are out in the market, they're presenting data on only a few hundred patients. So we believe we've done a lot more work in a lot less amount of time. In terms of competitors that are closer to the market, we see many great advantages, including our sensitivity to the early stage cancers and polyps, as well as a price point that is attractive to the payers who will be reimbursing this test, both ex-US and here in the United States, because healthcare costs are always a top concern. We'll accomplish these goals over the next year. We've already laid the foundation and the groundwork. We're working with a large diagnostics company to out-license some of our technology as we speak. With our Series A round, we'll be able to finish the manufacturing and some last studies for our CE IVD regulatory approval. Then we'll be able to launch Coloplix ex-US and here in our clinical lab. All the while, we'll continue to grow our coronavirus test offering. In terms of market opportunity, colorectal cancer really looks like a huge market globally. It's about a $10 billion global testing market, and $1 billion of that is in vitro diagnostics, including blood tests like ours. We aim to capture a significant portion of this market, and it is large enough for many players to enter. We're already on track for revenue generation of $500,000 right now with our coronavirus testing, and we'll continue that over the next 18 to 24 months as physicians continue to order coronavirus tests. But the real ramp up happens when we launch Coloplix internationally and here in our clinical lab. And you can see we plan to eclipse over $20 million in gross revenue over the next 5 years at operating margins, which will create attractive earnings and attractive multiples on those earnings for our investors. We already have large partnerships either signed or in the works for licensing opportunities, licensing revenue, and downstream M&A to create that liquidity event and that exit for our stockholders. Now, we can't do this alone, so I would asking all investors in the audience to please join us on this journey. We're raising a $5 million Series A round. We plan to use that to grow the coronavirus offering in our own lab, finish the manufacturing and the last studies for our CE IVD, launch Coloplix in Europe, and then roll it out in multiple geographies, including the United States. So with that, I want to thank you for your time and attention, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Eric. That was great. I'm going to turn it over to the panelists now. So if you would unmute your mics to provide some feedback or ask questions.
Hi, it's Rebecca Sharp. Really nice presentation. My question is, I think it's great that you have expanded your services to cover the coronavirus sampling. And I see that you're kind of just depending on that revenue, looking at 18 to 24 months out, since we don't know exactly what's going to happen. How do you feel about once that revenue drops off? I know you're predicting that you're going to have 20 mil in revenue on the colorectal side. Do you feel that those partnerships are the pipeline to obtaining that revenue, or do you have some other pipeline, I guess, targets in place? And then secondly to that, with your partnerships, do you have exclusivity?
Great questions. So we, not mentioned in the presentation, but we already have distribution and channel partners throughout most of Europe, Latin America, and some countries in Southeast Asia already ready to go. And we've been developing those relationships for about 5 years, leaking information and data into those markets on our colon cancer test. They are pulling this technology into their markets. They are eager to get their hands on test kits, launch them regionally in their own geographies, in their own countries. So, you know, the coronavirus testing was very tactical. It's topical and relevant right now, but that's not our bread and butter. We are a cancer diagnostics company, and we've spent the last several years laying that groundwork and that foundation. The partnerships that we have presently, these are non-exclusive. So we took very careful consideration to be able to work with many different companies. This is obviously, diagnostics is a very large industry, and we did not want to be locked into one particular partner or another. So we've been very careful to make sure that we can play with whoever is willing to come to the table and whoever we can track to the table and get, essentially the best partners and the best partnerships moving forward.
Thank you.
Can you, for those of us who are not aware, can you detail the benefits and the difference between a blood test and a fecal test? I think, most people who are uninitiated are going to pretty quickly be thinking about, Cologuard because they see commercials on TV. And so it feels like this is now reaching sort of general awareness, and we're seeing commercials on TV. Can you talk a little bit more about the advantages and where this fits into the market and how this will actually get to patients and customers, in a different manner than maybe this less than accurate test, but sort of what's reached general availability right now?
Right, that's a great question, and Cologuard is a great test. I mean, don't get me wrong, they've got an excellent offering, but it is still a stool test. And as you may have saw in my slide about the market, stool testing is still projected to be about 90% of the colorectal cancer testing market over the next 5 years. So that's not going away anytime soon. What we've decided to do is to insert ourselves in between the current stool testing that's taking place in Europe. It's happening every year or every 2 years on a compulsory basis. So those health systems are sending these relatively inexpensive stool tests out into the market, into the population age 50 and above. And what we've decided to do is come in and complement that test rather than trying to compete head-to-head with it, driving the correct patients to a confirmatory colonoscopy. We believe, in the health economics modeling shows that inserting this blood test as sort of a second line or a reflex or a triage, you can kind of think of it as a triage model, that we will save those health systems significant dollars by getting the correct patients to the procedure where their treatment options are the best and healthcare dollars can be most efficiently used to treat those patients, and then reducing the number of false positives that they are seeing with the current fecal test.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I think that would have been helpful to understand that, you're really primarily an escalation-based test.
Good point. Yeah, you're right. Thank
90% is effectively 100%. So, I mean, and I know it's not, but I mean, just, from the perspective of an investor, 10% is a very small part of the market. But if you're saying you're really there as an escalation measure, then that makes me think much more about the partnerships and the industry adoption that you'll need.
Right. No, that's a great point. You're absolutely correct.
Anything else? All right, we're going to move along. Our next presentation is by Josh Rabinowitz with Articulate Labs.
Great. Share. See, I need to be able to share the screen. Kirk, who's the admin on the Zoom channel?
Should be able to share now.
Awesome, thank you. Cool. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Josh Rabinowitz. I'm co-founder and CEO of Articulate Labs. Our company develops wearable medical devices to help greatly accelerate muscle strengthening and training to help people overcome functional limitations and restore quality of life, starting with knee joint rehabilitation. We started here because my partner lost his right leg in a motorcycle accident several years ago and quickly wore out the cartilage in the knee of his fully intact leg as he was relearning to walk. Considered too young to get a knee replacement at that time, he was advised to exhaust all the conservative options available to him. In that moment of diagnosis, he joined nearly 14 million in the US who are symptomatic and seeking treatment for a painful degenerative joint condition, out of which nearly 1 million get knee surgery, mostly knee replacement, every year. This constitutes roughly a $11 billion market that's only going to grow as the population ages and gets heavier. Physical therapy is highly effective for mitigating the effects of knee osteoarthritis. In general, the better the shape of the quadriceps, which is the muscle around above and around the knee, the better the shape of the joint. However, the vast majority of patients don't get to all their physical therapy, not necessarily because of lack of want to. Time, distance, cost, or confusion over exercise can conspire to reduce access. Our thought was that if we can't bring the patient to physical therapy, we should try to figure out a way to bring physical therapy to them. And that's a cause that's only gotten more important with COVID-19, where no-show rates and cancellations for physical therapy sessions are up 20%, and as many as 20,000 elective knee procedures are getting delayed every week of lockdown during COVID-19. We have an option that we think can help address this. What we've developed is we call KneeStim, a device that integrates neuromuscular electrical stimulation, which is a treatment used to assist with muscle strengthening by running current through a muscle, and made it mobile and adaptive through the integration of motion tracking hardware, machine learning, and joint modeling. In effect, taking a strengthening and training modality and making it integrate into your everyday life such that your everyday activities become rehabilitation. The picture you see on the left is standard of care, or standard with neuromuscular electrical stimulation. Again, effective, but can be kludgy, difficult to set up. Certainly can't walk around with it. Our device that you see being demoed on the right takes all that same technology, combines it into a light form factor that can fit under most pieces of clothing, and can leverage your activities such as getting in and out of your car, walking your dog, shopping for groceries. We've seen in previous research that the application of stimulation combined with voluntary muscle activation during movement can lead to a near doubling in recovery of strength and activation following surgery compared to passive stimulation. This application is also going to be more convenient for the end user. It's going to enable data tracking, remote kinematics measurement that can now be reimbursed for monitoring by providers. And ultimately, we believe there's a strong potential for cost savings for patients, payers, and hospitals by offsetting or getting rid of competitive treatments. Our team is small, but our team is small but passionate about the potential of this technology. My co-founder, who I want to highlight here, 55 patents to his name in control systems and embedded design, as well as previous experience growing startups. The scientific advisors you see listed below are all helping us with our post-market validation plans, revenue cycle integration, or future applications of this technology. Briefly touching on what we've done to de-risk this, we have collected proof of concept data on this technology at UT Austin, showing a high level of stimulation accuracy and timing. We've identified reimbursement codes for this technology, have 4 patents granted in the US, and we have notice of allowance for our first in the EPO, had our first successful pre-submission meeting with the FDA, and have seen that the vast majority of likely prescribers and end users are interested or highly interested in this technology. We will be pursuing treatment or rehabilitation of for knee replacement, people coming off of knee replacements, that's where we see the greatest unmet need with regards to treatment of muscle atrophy and weakness, as well as greatest need for time-efficient treatment. We will be raising $1 million towards that purpose, and we are looking to hit $45 million in revenue based on the metrics we've collected from that market research. Lastly, we'll say this underlying technology is extensible to other joints and conditions. We don't intend to stop at the knee. We want to be able to address any and all musculoskeletal conditions using this technology. Thank you very much for your time. We look forward to having your questions.
Thanks, Josh. I'll turn it over now to our panelists.
Hi, it's Rebecca again. Great presentation. I took I really liked the slide on the de-risking. You answered a lot of my questions. Yep, that slide's great. So a lot of the questions that I had, you nailed right here. So I really liked that. Also, the other question you kind of left me with is, I saw, the competitor where you've got all the wires. Is there anybody else doing anything from a wearable and really kind of innovating in this area right now?
Yeah, there's a couple competitors specifically in the quadriceps muscle stimulation device, quadriceps stimulation space. Neither of those devices synchronize stimulation with movement, though. That's our differentiation from them. So while those devices are effective, they're still going to require you to be stationary when the stimulation's used, and you don't get that synergy between stimulation and muscle activation during movement that we're able to leverage.
Great. So perhaps putting the differentiators out there a little bit better, because not knowing that space, yeah, that was helpful. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, I will echo Rebecca's comments. I thought it was a solid presentation. I thought this slide was particularly effective. I agree, the NMES thing you kind of glossed over a little bit, and it's I do know that space, and I know that those devices are pretty clunky and cumbersome, but that they are pretty, just standard DME that is highly reimbursable, and so I know that that's a real market. So I would have probably maybe spent one more slide on that. It could be because you were time bound, but I felt like you kind of blew past the use of funds of the $1 million raise, and I also didn't get a good understanding of what your real commercialization strategy is. Are you going to ultimately keep developing this, continue to move through de-risking, and then license the IP? Are you going to get into manufacturing? All the stuff about how you're actually going to make money, I didn't quite get. Outside of the fact that you've de-risked it and you've identified the the codes. So can you talk about that briefly?
Sure. We are, so for the purposes of making money, our goal at this moment is to sell these devices to outpatient surgical centers and physical therapy clinics. These are the entities we've been in contact with largely in the Dallas and Houston areas, where, especially with COVID, there is greater interest in being able to maintain contact with patients that are not able to come in for procedures or therapy sessions, and to specifically to help people who are stuck waiting, as many as 12 months for their now rescheduled knee surgery. The goal is, again, sell to those entities for them to rent out or resell these devices to their patients, and then to either offset or make money on the device through reimbursement that's available, as you mentioned, HCPCS, CPT codes for use of the device in clinic, and now the recently expanded remote monitoring codes for tracking physiologic data.
So is your selling point the remote monitoring piece, that's the additional revenue that would justify the CapEx expense that they would take on in a window where they're probably already dealing with decreased revenue?
That's what it appears. We're to be very honest, we're still figuring out what exactly that recurring revenue model is going to be. We're kind of testing that out with the surgeons and therapists that we're working with about would they pay per patient? Would they pay one fee per month to be able to get all the information from all the patients that are using this device? But that it does offer it offers us a recurring revenue option that we didn't feel like we really had before.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Next up, we'll hear from Sophia Tomoff from Cardian Labs.
Hi, I'm Sophia Tomoff, and my business, Cardian Labs, provides AI-based decision support software for improving cardiac risk evaluations. We've all seen the tragic headlines about young athletes dying from sudden heart attacks. Heart disease isn't just the #1 killer of athletes, it's the #1 killer globally, and it's a silent killer. In 80% of sudden cardiac arrest cases in athletes, the first symptom is death. So how do doctors know if someone has an underlying heart condition? Meet Dr. K, a sports team physician. To flag athletes at risk of sudden cardiac arrest, it could take him 20 minutes to evaluate just one echocardiogram report, and he's got a stack of hundreds on his desk. Doctors are humans too, and a recent study shows that doctors who spend long periods of time evaluating reports suffer from burnout and distraction, which can lead to inaccurate readings. And this is where artificial intelligence comes in. Here's what we do. Cardian Labs provides AI-based clinical decision support software to help assess risk and guide treatment. We're working with the U.S. Air Force and University of Tennessee Sports Medicine to develop our software called Hero 14. Hero 14 looks at 14 metrics from an echocardiogram report and outputs normal or abnormal in under 5 seconds. Our software achieves 99% accuracy on test data. There's a huge need for better cardiac screenings for people in high-stress situations. Sudden cardiac arrest is actually the leading cause of death in athletes and in military recruits. So what exactly is the pain point? Current cardiac screening methods can be inaccurate and slow. Most doctors use these manual evaluation guidelines, but the problem is that studies show that these guidelines can overlook nearly 1 in 3 at-risk patients. Cardian's core value proposition for our target market of university sports programs, Department of Defense, and health systems is that our software can help maximize workflow efficiency and prevent sudden cardiac arrest with improved decision support. And why now? We are at an inflection point because sudden cardiac arrest in athletes and military personnel is really on the rise. Cardian received a Phase 1 STTR grant from the Air Force to continue developing our echocardiogram evaluation software. Our proof of concept was successful, and we submitted the proposal for Phase 2 funding. Our solutions are faster and more reliable than existing technology because of our patent-pending algorithm. We also use numerical data as opposed to potentially unreliable imaging data. Cardian is working with a team of medical and strategic advisors through several accelerator programs. Cardian has a clear path to revenue as well. We currently have $25,000 in revenue from the Air Force, in addition to funds from competitions. UT Sports Medicine is also potentially interested in pilot testing. And through this partnership with 3 accelerators, we are also in discussion with Ballot Health, ETSU, and Erlanger for pilot testing. Cardian recently began a pilot project with EDP Biotech, testing the potential of our algorithm's usefulness for colon cancer screening, and this could lead to potential partnership as well. Our software was also endorsed by the Lionheart Heroes Foundation, which advocates for improved cardiac screenings for military recruits. Here's how Cardian will grow. We can scale since our software addresses major timely pain points and fits in with DoD focus areas. We have plans to expand our software suite with tools for ECG analysis, optical character recognition, and colon cancer screening. To continue growing, we're asking for $10,000. This will help us hire a software developer to assist with EHR integration, so that way Cardian can integrate seamlessly with existing workflow. With Cardian software, Dr. K and others like him will not only be able to make more informed decisions, but also improve screening efficiency. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to Sophia. Unfortunately, Sophia's had some technical difficulties, so she's not able to join us for questions. But I would ask our panelists to provide just some feedback on what you saw today that might help her out in the future.
Yeah, so I actually thought it was a very good presentation. I thought the slides were nice and clean and simple and not too many words. So I always appreciate that in a live presentation. You know, just the stage that she's in, which is, you know, still very sort of research-based, SCTR grants and things of that nature, you know, and the amount of money that she's asking for, there's a bit of a disconnect with sort of scaling into different areas and things of that nature. I would just say, and also, you know, cardiac-based AI is at this point sort of synonymous with Apple's aspirations. So, you know, the Air Force stuff was really helpful for me to feel that there was a credible path for her to be successful. I would say get hyper-focused on you know, achieving success through a niche lane and show me that there isn't, show me that you're going to be focused on that, especially with how far you have to go, and that you can really execute that niche, and that you understand that it's a very, very crowded, competitive space with people that have unlimited amounts of money, and you're focused on your slice of it. Because for me, I was just thinking like, it's pretty clear every wearable, company out there with billions of dollars is going after some form of this. So show me how you focus and differentiate.
I agree with what Marcus said. Sorry about that, Kirk. The one thing that I was kind of left questioning is how I've got some history in analytics, and it can be really hard to kind of prove out what problem are you solving and then what action will be taken based on your data that you're providing. I agree that the niche focus on the cardiac should be tightened up a little bit. I got a little lost, especially with the ask on the teaser around colorectal. I'd probably keep it more to cardiac at this point and own that space and leave that out, because it left me with questions that were unnecessary probably. But it's very good.
Thank you. Next up, we have Scott Cadora from Medicare Pathfinder.
I'm Scott Cadora, the founder and CEO of Medicare Pathfinder, and we use data science to optimize senior healthcare. 80% of seniors have the wrong Medicare coverage, and that wastes $35 billion a year in out-of-pocket cost. Healthcare providers lose an average of $1,535 per Medicare patient. That's a $17.5 million average loss per hospital. But insurers make a profit of over $1,600 on each Medicare enrollee. And in fact, Medicare is the most profitable insurance line by 300%. Why? Insurers are much better at analyzing data than either healthcare providers or seniors, and they use that advantage to improve their profitability. Our data analytics platform uses artificial intelligence and machine learning to give healthcare providers data parity with those insurers so they can improve their Medicare operations. What we're doing is evaluating each individual Medicare patient to understand their likely healthcare needs, evaluate their Medicare coverage, and map the likely usage against the revenues that are going to go to the hospital. That gives us the ability to analyze the risks and the likely revenues for each Medicare patient, and to understand the likely risk and profitability of every insurance relationship for that hospital. That gives the healthcare providers the ability to identify and adapt to their current and future needs for patients, insurance contracts, and value-based care programs they may have with Medicare, so they can better manage their risk, improve their profitability, and their cash flow. Our value proposition, we think we can increase Medicare revenues by over $13 million per hospital per year. We use a revenue sharing business model on a 1/3 to 2/3 basis. And in the next 3 years, we anticipate that we can improve hospital revenues by nearly $150 million. There are over 5,200 community hospitals in the US treating Medicare patients, and Medicare represents 45% of those hospitals' expenses. So our total addressable market is $23 billion in the United States. Our team is made up of experienced individuals in both technology, healthcare, insurance, and data science. We've already launched initial pilots in the insurance market and in healthcare pilots with several hospital systems in the United States. We've been members of Nashville Project Healthcare and the CoLab HealthTech Accelerator. There is competition in the marketplace, but it's not using AI in this level, where we are actually building a patient-centric AI model that is flexible and scalable, and it readily adapts to market needs. We're raising $2 million for seed rounds to deploy our pilots and to expand our operations and marketing staff. Thank you very much. I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. Question for you. I didn't fully understand how you solved the problem on the hospital side. So can you give me some examples of the types of things you would be identifying as cost savings? Is it just optimizing the plan for their Medicare coverage and their reimbursement, or is it actually identifying better clinical pathways and perhaps social determinant of health pathways to improve the care over time?
So there's several different levers that we can pull to improve the outcomes. So one is to identify those patients who are actually underinsured relative to their likely usage. That's about 25% of your population is responsible for about 58% of your risk. In other words, those are the patients you're going to bill and they're never going to pay you back.
Right.
So that's one level. We can identify them, and because of some of the arcane rules of Medicare, those hospital systems cannot just write off an unpaid patient debt. They have to independently go out and verify that that patient cannot pay the bill. The easier way is to help them get the right coverage from the very outset. But the first point in that is, which patients are underinsured and how can you help them get the optimal insurance for their likely needs and for their financial situation? We can do that. The second part is to understand what is the appropriate fee-for-service schedule for either a Medicare Advantage contract or for a value-based care program where you are being judged on the outcome rather than just a fee-for-service billing. The entire billing system of a healthcare organization right now is all looking at arrears. They're all looking backwards at what did this patient come in for? How do we bill, and how do we try and maximize the CPT codes and the HCPCS codes to get as much as we can. And they're even to the point of training nurses to do incremental little adjustments to the procedures that they do, the clinical procedures they do, just to get $10 more.
Right.
Whereas our approach is stop trying to look backwards, look forward. You have the data, and we can help you understand what is it that you should have, and then use that information to understand if you're going out to negotiate with United Healthcare. United Healthcare's already run all this data on their side, and they essentially run the table when they come in to do these negotiations. So stop playing a crooked game. You've got the data to actually win the game. And that's one of the things that we see the advantage of the machine learning and AI is the hospitals are actually much better to make these judgments because they've got much deeper levels of data on each patient. And we've built the system that can generate those insights for them.
Understood. A thought for me, just because I'm on the topic and familiar with the space, perhaps including some SDOH type AI data into there can allow these hospitals to maximize their reimbursements on the Medicare Advantage members, because many aren't doing it yet.
Yeah.
So that could be a great way to get into the hospital, because now we're talking about revenue dollars that maybe they haven't taken advantage of yet. But
absolutely, and
yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, great presentation.
Hey Scott, I think for me, you know, I spent most of my time looking for the slide that was going to tell me about the traction that you had with hospitals. You know, I put this in the category of things that hospitals absolutely should do, and that's a pretty big category. You know, but they don't necessarily always do those things, and a lot of it's just because, you know, they're high reliability, high availability, you know, organizations, and change, even if it, you know, does make sense sort of in an academic exercise, the change in the theory. And the one thing, just to kind of Rebecca's point, you know, that I also kept wondering was the identification of the patient is one thing, but the actual execution of getting that patient onto the new insurance, that process, I was wondering who does that. Is the hospital supposed to staff the person that does that? What does that process look like? What is the success rate of being able to achieve that? Because I don't believe it's going to be 100% for a variety of reasons.
Nobody anticipates it'll be 100%.
Yeah,
but
just wondering about like who does the work.
Sure. So a couple of things, and you asked a couple of questions. Let me address them from the back to the front.
Yep.
So who would execute that? And again, that's one thing that's tangible. It's actually, from the number standpoint, it's the smallest numbers. It's the lowest hanging fruit. But who would do that? That's typically going to be in the business office. And from some regulatory aspects, that business office is going to say, you're underinsured, and this is the right coverage that you need. And then we can make the connection. We've got the insurance contacts to help them get enrolled in that. From a licensing standpoint, you're not going to want the hospital or even us to do that. That's got to come from a licensed insurance agent. But there's already a pipeline to do that, and we've got that built in. Interestingly enough, in our customer discovery, where we've talked to thousands of seniors, the average senior is more likely to buy into a recommendation from their healthcare provider on their insurance than they are from an insurance agent, because they trust the healthcare providers looking out for their best interest in their healthcare. And so that actually makes it easier to get greater adoption. You asked about traction. So right now we're building a pilot with Augusta University Medical Center. And we had an agreement at the beginning of the year with a larger health system that got sidetracked because of COVID. Literally, we had an agreement on February 27th, and then 2 weeks later, all hell broke loose. Mm-hmm. We maintain good relationships with that. We have several other hospital systems, some based in Nashville from our work with Project Healthcare, some based in Colorado, in Georgia, and North and South Carolina. And so our focus is get that first one with Augusta up and going and nailed. And that's what we're working on right now, currently. So we've got, just if you calculate out the number of hospitals that they have that are interested, you've got probably 10, 15 organizations that represent about 700 hospitals that are interested in it. But it's about executing on the first one. And that's why we're trying to really make sure that we nail this right.
Yep, makes sense.
Great. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Our next founder is Victor Brown with Excellent Life.
Year after year, over $1.4 trillion is lost due to preventable illnesses. Those same illnesses rob us of over 30 million beautiful lives each year. Now it is time that we bring our collective resources together to protect human life. It is time that we bring the best technology together to improve quality of life. It is time that we take a proactive approach to ensuring that we have health instead of reacting to sickness. It is time that we should have greater expectations for the outcomes we receive in healthcare. It is time we have excellent life. Hello, my name is Victor, the founder and CEO of Excellent Life. We're a software analytics company that focuses in the healthcare space and driving wellness. I spent 20 years developing subject matter expertise in the energy sector, where I learned a lot about software applications dedicated to protecting critical infrastructure, some of which was part of our national security. I would have retired in the energy sector had it not been for my dad developing type 2 diabetes. As I got more involved, I recognized the shortcomings of healthcare. Everything was reactionary. And the approach was an approach that did not utilize the greatest technology. As a result of that, the pain and suffering that my dad experienced and experiences today, I associated directly with the limitations that were a part of the healthcare system. I decided I was going to make a difference. I founded Excellent Life, was fortunate enough to be joined by an incredibly strong team, a team with deep domain expertise that includes Samuel Brantaski and Dr. Lakeisha Crawford. We are all incredibly passionate about making a positive difference in the world by advancing healthcare. The solution is to take a proactive approach, which is what we do. We analyze a comprehensive set of health-related factors, utilizing analytics powered by artificial intelligence, algorithms that we've developed across 20 years of research and development. As a result of our approach, we can reduce the cost of care, we can improve outcomes, and we save lives. Our business model is to sell our solution to businesses that include healthcare service providers, insurance companies, and employers. Those businesses do two things. One, they cut the cost associated with healthcare for their employees, for their patients, for their clients. And two, they improve the service they provide, whether it be to their patients, to their employees, or clients. We impact what is now a $460 billion market. What we believe as a first mover for real-time human diagnostics, we can grow our company to be a multi-billion-dollar company. We've already gotten off to a good start as a bootstrap company with no outside investment. We've gone through a process of research and development, developing a minimum viable product, and advancing that to have a working product 2 iterations of that. We've done 3 pilot programs, and we've identified over $3.6 million in pipeline revenue opportunity. We are now looking to raise a seed around $1.5 million. We've got traction. Again, as a bootstrap company, we've got strategic partners that we're developing. We've got sales channel partnerships already in place. And we've got programs that we've been a part of, all of which have taken a closer look at Excellent Life, the opportunity with our solution, our expertise, passion of our team. They've chosen to get involved. Our solution brings 2 unique areas where we have a competitive advantage. One, our deep analytics capabilities. We also have a differentiator on the user engagement side. 2, as a matter of fact. The team, again, a team of deep domain expertise that is committed to growing Excellent Life. Thank you for your time. My name is Victor, founder, CEO of Excellent Life.
Thanks, Victor.
Thanks, Victor.
Thank you.
Question about B2B to C can be difficult. You're really having to meet the needs of 2 completely different sectors. Can you talk a little bit about what you anticipate the business model looking like? Who's going to pay for the solution? How do you get customers engaged, the end user? That piece.
Sure, a great question. So our overall vision is that we want to add value for the end consumer, given the way the reasons for starting the company, the experiences with my dad. So when you look at our application, everything you see will be really consumer centric. It will be very simple, very designed for the consumer to engage, and motivate, and incentivize behavior. On the back end, which is where we have deep, analytics power, which is where we can provide value for those business stakeholders in terms of the information we can provide from the information we're gathering. And so while the track to get to the end consumer means that we're going through these different businesses, I think it's very key that we design our solution where the interface is consumer centric. So that's one of the methods that we're using, our strategies, in terms of how we get from the business customer who's paying for the solution to the end consumer. There's also kind of an establishment of existing relationships and growing relationships in the business space that we can leverage given the number of years that our team has spent in the professional world, which also helps us to feel very confident about what the opportunity is, given some of the deals that we've been able to get in our former lives. If that helps to answer some of the questions.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, Victor, I wanted to follow up on Rebecca's question, and can you give us just a little bit more specificity about maybe, I don't know if you're under NDA with your potential pilots, but I think specific industry segments would be really helpful for us to sort of understand more specifically, like who that, in that B2B to C, who is that middle B, who are you selling to specifically, so we can understand what their motivation is and just get a better sense of where you fit in this market, because there are lots of players that are purporting to do many of the things that Excellent Life is going after.
Right, great question. So across those 3 verticals, insurance companies, healthcare service providers, and the employers. They all have very unique nuances in terms of how they want to control costs. At the crux of them controlling costs is them understanding facets of their operation, of their business, of their customer base that they don't presently understand. And so what we do in every single case is that when we're collecting that data, we analyze it in a way where they can better understand those nuances. So they're making more informed decisions. In the case of insurance companies, their whole business is built around understanding their risk. Today, when they basically determine those risk profiles are determined by really regional biases and a lot of social determinants. And while that gives them a shot that lands in the area of risk, it is not very specific. Even within the same risk profile, they have enough variation where they have individuals that cost them a lot of money and individuals that don't cost them as much. What we do is we help refine that so that we're not talking about just the probability of a person getting some condition. We're talking about the probability of them getting a condition within a certain time frame. They're able to refine their risk based on a time frame expectation, which can save millions of dollars. For employers, it really follows the same type of track, except a bigger piece for them is really engaging and incentivizing their employee base to perform better. And that's where our gamification as a part of our mobile app factors in. And ultimately, as they start getting fewer incidents that they're having to file claims for, because the way the insurance companies work, they get better rates when they start to lower their incident rates. And this may be something that may be more impactful to them after a couple of years of having better rates, because they basically map this out for years when they're doing the rates. But they still see the benefit from increased employee engagement, increased employee performance, and fewer incidents just in terms of their production. With healthcare service providers, it's a broad spectrum of how we offer value. I'll talk specifically about small regional hospitals. As you probably know, small regional hospitals are under assault. They are closing down rapidly because of some of the various challenges, with them really being viewed as the first line of defense for individuals that are going to the emergency room instead of using their primary care physicians. As a result of that, they're getting hit with these readmittance penalties, which can cost them up to 3% of their Medicare cost. And that could be millions. They can't afford to have that happen. So for them, having a solution that's much more population health centric, focused on the public, making sure that they're mapping individuals to a primary care physician, a telehealth, telemedicine solution, a solution outside of the emergency door that they may not need, rather than them go through that process and the hospital itself be hit with a penalty that can be damaging to the point where they're filing bankruptcy. And so we're helping in all of those cases by bringing information to the table on one hand, and then incentivizing behavior on the other hand with the consumer. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but I wanted to make sure that I addressed all of those different verticals.
Thank you. That was helpful.
Very helpful.
All right, our next founder is Noah Asher with Vascugenics.
Hello, my name is Noah Asher, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Vascugenics. We're a medical device company working to improve the safety and efficiency of interventional vascular procedures. Interventional vascular procedures cover a wide range of minimally invasive surgeries, where the physician has to maneuver a catheter through the patient's arteries in order to reach the heart. In order to move the catheter, physicians use a guide wire and a torque device. The guide wire is where the physician slides the catheter over to reach the heart, while the torque device is used to grip the wire and direct its movement inside the vascular system. Without a torque device, physicians don't have a way to maneuver the guide wire effectively. But the problem with torque devices is that most interventionalists find them cumbersome and frustrating to use. The main reason for this is most torque devices require two hands to operate, which means that every time the physician has to adjust the device's placement, he has to take his eyes off the screen and his hand off the wire, which means that multiple times during the procedure, the physician loses complete visualization of the guide wire, and there's nothing securing it inside of the patient, leaving it free to move around. This is a really scary moment because if that wire inadvertently shifts inside of the body, it can lead to serious complications, including lengthened procedural time, perforated blood vessels, and internal bleeding, which turns a minimally invasive procedure into an open chest surgery. That's why at Vascugenix, we developed the SpeedTorque. It's an FDA-registered, patented, next-generation torque device that uses a proprietary click-and-lock toggle to ensure the physician can easily maneuver the guide wire using just one hand. The SpeedTorque fits seamlessly with existing procedural techniques and has quickly proven itself to be the fastest and safest method for performing these types of procedures. We launched the SpeedTorque into the US market on October 1st of this year, and 2 days later, on October 3rd, it was used successfully during a myocardial infarction and ended up saving the life of a heart attack patient. It's been used in 12 additional procedures since then and has far exceeded expectations and performance standards. Initial data shows the SpeedTorque consistently shaving off about 2 to 3 minutes of procedure time, which is an eternity in the operating room and translates into hundreds and even thousands of dollars in potential cost savings. And while the cost savings are important, the increased efficiency is far more, because it means we now have the ability to save more of the patient's heart tissue, and it reduces the amount of radiation that both the patient and the physician are exposed to from x-rays. Since the first use only 2 weeks ago, we've quickly grown our reach, and the SpeedTorque is currently being piloted at 6 diverse health systems all over the country. By the end of this month, 20 experienced interventional physicians will have had a chance to use and evaluate the SpeedTorque for its clinical performance and efficacy. The results so far have been overwhelmingly positive, with 100% of our early adopters agreeing that the SpeedTorque is faster, easier to use, and a significant improvement over current devices. Today, we have a portfolio of 7 patents covering the United States, the European Union, and the Republic of China, and we've already sold 1,500 units. We've raised over $500,000 towards our seed round and can offer investors attractive tax incentives. We've built strong partnerships with industry leaders, including a distribution agreement with Medline, the largest medical device distributor in the world, and will leverage these relationships to grow the SpeedTorque's clinical adoption and traction. The Vascugenix team is comprised of a group of talented and experienced individuals, including decades of experience in cardiovascular medicine, manufacturing, startup development, and industrial R&D. The SpeedTorque represents a growing niche market, which we estimate to be worth approximately $188 million, with the largest 3 markets being the ones we already have patent protection in. We're selling the SpeedTorque at a price point that is lower than the top-selling torque devices in the market today, so we know hospitals are already comfortable paying this amount, and we can beat out our top competition. At scale, we can produce a packaged, sterilized SpeedTorque unit for less than 65 cents, which gives us gross margins of over 80%. These high margins allow us to quickly break even and remain profitable as we scale up the business. We project having 900 hospital accounts in 2023, which equates to a projected revenue of $8.6 million in 2023 and $4.6 million in EBITDA in our 3rd year of operations. Today, we still need to raise $300,000 out of our total fundraising goal of $850K. This funding allows us to scale up our manufacturing volume and push sales and marketing to drive the SpeedTorque's clinical adoption, while still providing us with ample runway until we're able to sustain ourselves based off of our own revenue. Acquisition is our most probable and targeted exit strategy, with recent comparable buyouts ranging from 3 to 5 times the acquired company's annual revenue, with the industry average being a 4.1x EV to revenue multiple. At 4x revenue, Vascugenix will be valued at $35 million in 2023, providing investors with upwards of a 7 times ROI in about 3 years. We believe that Vascugenix and the SpeedTorque are solid investment opportunities. We're solving a valid and demonstrating physician pain point with a high margin device that has passed all regulatory hurdles. Our team is focused on quickly making Vascugenix the dominant player in this niche market and providing a quick and substantial ROI to our investors. So please join us and help interventional physicians to be faster, safer, and ultimately more effective at saving lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. I'm sorry, Noah. So panelists?
That was great. Your presentation was very concise and crisp, and you really hit on every item that I had on my mind. Just great feedback. I don't have any questions.
That's a first. Thank you.
What's the valuation?
So we're raising at a $5 million post-money valuation.
What's the pre?
So it was 850. So doing the math on that, it comes about to about 4.2.
4.2. Okay. Yeah. Excellent presentation.
Thank you very much.
Good job, Noah. Next presentation this afternoon is Nicholas Rosenkovich with Mindcatine.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm trying to load it. Can you see it? I assume yes. So good afternoon everyone. My name is Nicholas Rosenkovich. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mindcatine, and I'm here to share with all of you how it's possible to change addictions from direct from home. One second. There we go. So we are all related with addictions. In my case, I was a smoker for many years, but successfully quit, but had an uncle that died at the age of 50, leaving 3 kids behind very young. And this is not an exception. There are billions of smokers in the world that struggles with it. However, we identified that in the US, the biggest driver for smoking cessations are employers due to health-related costs for tobacco surcharging premiums and health insurance claims. So addressing this issue, the common denominator is that dissatisfaction it is. So due to lack of enrollment, engagement, and of course efficacy. So that's why we created Mindcatine, the first at-home virtual reality program that helps employees quit using a combination of virtual reality, mindfulness-based therapies, psychological therapies, and CBT. Using this combination, here you can see a video that shows how the user gets an app and also a virtual reality toolkit that enables each user directly from home have access to a personalized treatment that will generate craving in different areas in the brain, while at the same time this training session delivering mindfulness train the user and the brain to diminish the reactions to cravings. So through these personalized treatments, they can overcome cravings from home. We have validated our technology, conducted successful clinical trials, and published in the Journal of Medical and Internet Research, co-authored by Johns Hopkins University, which showed more than 3 times efficacy versus standard interventions like nicotine patches. So in order to tackle a billion-dollar market, we decided to focus on a narrow, direct-to-employer, self-insured corporations in order to help them reduce these health-related costs. And later on, we will pursue addressing the health insurance through reimbursement path, and later on, partnering with pharma to target direct to consumers. So far, we have validated our model selling directly to more than 30 corporations like Santander Bank, Fiat Chrysler Automobile, Accenture, and others, having early revenues on 120K. But lately, in the last quarter, and due to COVID, we've seen a tremendous hike in our deals and conversations with brokers and employers, mostly because we solve like no one else, activation and efficacy directly from home. We are very much confident due to our existing customers, existing deals, and projected sales forecast. We are able to achieve $500,000 revenue in the next year under a per employee per month model that have a growth margin initially of 57 as to penetrate the market. And for that, we are fundraising a $1 million seed round in order to continue and support our sales and marketing activities in different stages in order to ramp in these quarters, addressing our milestones per quarter. The difference and the reason why we achieved all of this in only 3 years is our executive team that we know each other for more than 30 years and we're still friends, but we complement in the fields of neuroscience, psychology, virtual reality, and technology. But not only that, we're guided by lead key opinion leaders from the industry and the academia and the market that from Peer Therapeutics, Johns Hopkins, and Duke University. So the vision is not only in the roadmap of the product, not only to stay in smoking, but to help everyone to overcome addictions that we all struggle with using our existing channel partners that we are securing today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Thanks, Nicholas. You may have glossed over this and I missed it. Can you talk a little bit, and if you didn't, you should add it, a little bit about efficacy, like what you're seeing as compared to other products that are on the market?
Yes, of course. Sorry,
Okay.
maybe I tried to run with the minutes, but anyway. So mostly whatever is out there, it's standard, and most available things are psychoeducative content based on or workshops, seminars, quit lines, and pharmaceutical products. In terms of pharmaceutical products, we compare with the ones that are more accessible. So NRTs, nicotine replacement therapies, and we achieve with a 90 days follow-up more than 3 times efficacy. 33% of efficacy in smoking cessation is a pretty outstanding rate. And that's been the reason why it's achieved, because we have a high rates of engagement through the program that is personalized, digital companion through every day. We also provide coaching sessions, personalized. That it's like the standard interventions are also being delivered through our program, but we enhance it with this cognitive virtual training technique.
Got it. So do you see this as more of an enhancement to a full program versus a one and done?
We've tried this, and the way we are deploying this is not complementing. However, we've seen either higher efficacy when complemented with NRTs or with Chantix or bupropion, which are prescription drugs for this, and achieve like 60 or 70% efficacy. So one of the reasons why we are already in conversation with Johnson & Johnson and also with Pfizer is to complement their existing pharmaceutical products. But we don't need to be complemented. We can, our efficacy it's independent from other interventions, but of course it can be benefit.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I was just wondering, and I may have missed it as well because there was a lot to cover. Did you touch on total market size? What your addressable market was?
Yes, of course. So in the US, and I'm not talking global, it's a $2.5 billion total addressable market in smoking cessation only. Okay. We're focusing in our objective market is self-insured blue-collar employers. Okay. Those are the ones that have the higher rates on smoking segmentation population employers, but also have the higher, I would say, cost in tobacco surcharge in premiums and also in claims. So that's our the segment of the market that we're pursuing today.
That was what I was looking for. That's very helpful. Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any partnership, I'm sorry, Nicholas, around self-employer providers? So the Team Health of the world, some other, companies that come in and do that.
Yes. So far we work with Marsh, and part also of this program with CoLab is to enter and partner, if possible, if we are pursuing the following conversations with Unum as broker. Brokers are the ones that brings innovation to different employers. Of course, selling through brokers is not the same as selling directly, and we're founders, we love to sell. However, we learn the way how to become a resource of activation and why brokers decide to put us in front of their customers. So for example, we signed a contract with Gympass. Gympass is a digital gym subscription now turned into wellness, a wellness platform, digital platform due to COVID and so on. They have 12 million approx users. So the way why we are next to Calm, and they are the other partner, digital partner. So it's us and Calm here. And we have a very good activation proposal. And that's what most companies struggle with. Activation, engagement, and of course that will have an impact on efficacy. And so understanding and how to be a resource for brokers is always a challenge as well.
If you figure it out, let me know.
We are doing it.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rebecca. All right, so as we wrap up today, I'm going to ask our panelists and our founders to keep your cameras on, and we're going to do a screenshot to kind of capture this for posterity. For the rest of you, we hope that you will stay tuned with CoLab, watch us on internet, Google, Facebook, and keep track of our calendar so that you get more opportunities to look at companies like you've seen today who are changing the face of markets all over the US. Thank you.